And so that's why we're focusing on technology today. Because the fact of the matter is you have grown your business by developing trust and confidence with your clients. And so I want to show you how to take what you already do in the real world and apply it online.
Now is the time for us to polish up our profiles because tomorrow is not guaranteed.
How many of you are on LinkedIn regularly, meaning at least once a week? Okay, about half of you, not bad. Okay. How many of you are on Facebook? Keep your hand up if it's Facebook for business only. Okay. Anybody on Twitter? I think there's only, oh wow, okay, that's fascinating. Twitter confuses people. And I think the reason Twitter confuses people is because they're often following other confused people. I'm a futurist, so I'm used to looking at things 5, 10 years into the future. We have been mating with our devices for the past 20 years. Not that definition of mating. Being fixed with, being merged with. So the first thing I want to pose to you is technology is changing humans. Humans are developing something called digital amnesia. All that means is that we're retaining less information because we have devices that will remember things for us. So Google Alerts is a free service from Google that lets you know when someone mentions or a word or terms that you're following online.
Crystal, you are known for sharing tech tools. So what are the cool tools that we should all be using now?
Oh, there are so many. And the fact of the matter is they've always been there, but in the past we didn't have to depend on them. So now we get a chance to try them out.
The other cool thing about BombBomb and some of the other tools is you can actually track and see when they open things. So I send it over, and I see they're all clicking on. I get little updates on the side. I can see when people click on things. But sometimes I'll see that they click on this same email. Maybe we've done business together, but I notice, hey, they just reopened this email a year later. It pops up in my little emails. I just see they opened this from a year ago. So what do? I find an excuse to contact them. I'm like, I just saw this article and it made me think of you, Tiffany. One thing that most people, 99% of people have no idea about is that you can actually follow a Twitter account from a mobile phone that has no access to the internet, even if you do not have a Twitter account. So, if there's a natural disaster about to strike, let's say that there's a tornado, I guarantee you, let's say there's a tornado coming down in Oklahoma, because it happens a lot, right? I guarantee you, as this tornado is coming down, there is someone who is running away from that tornado, that as they're running, they still find the time.
It has been a crazy year, and anyone would be afraid or just wondering what's coming next, and we have no way of knowing what's coming even a month from now. Forget planning years in advance, right? However, this is a time of unique opportunity. So number one, make sure that your picture is updated, okay? So that might mean that you have to do your own COVID haircut.
How many of you in here sleep with your mobile phone? I want you to notice what happened. When I asked that question, you heard whispering all over the room. And someone said something like, what does she mean? In the bed, by the bed, on the floor? Now also social media. This is so important as we start to get into some of the tactics. It does not replace face-to-face, phone calls, or handwritten notes. I put this in every single presentation I've ever given in life in any country. Which is why you all pop up so much, right? And so understand that these are two sides of the same coin. Social media provides us with a non-spooky way to touch people in between these other interactions. So if I go on Facebook and I see that the way that it's set up has changed one day, I look at that and I'm like, they've changed things again. Let me figure out how this works. If my mom logs into Facebook and they've reconfigured the page, I promise you this is my mother. I can't tell you how important words are, because 2 of the major social networks that I mentioned run off of keywords. Raise your hand if you know what a keyword is. Raise your hand if you have key clients or influencers that you would like to stay top of mind with them, like you want them to remember you exist, right? All right. Do you head over to their office every day and say, hey, I was just thinking about you? Ma'am, you said you are a stalker. Is that what you just admitted to?
I think it's extremely powerful. And that's just going back to that reaching out. How are you doing? There's so much going on in the world. Tell me about you right now. And you would be surprised, Susan, or maybe you wouldn't, how many people right now haven't had anyone around them, even in their immediate circle, say, how are you doing? Because everyone's trying to convince everyone else to be strong and power on. But in terms of social media, there's a few things you should do really on 2 different social networks. One for sure, the other one's a maybe. So the first social network is LinkedIn.
The culture of LinkedIn is business. It's all business. People don't want to see pictures of our babies. They don't want to see pictures of our cats. They don't want to see videos of our babies riding our cats. All they want is business. And so, if that makes sense for you and how you're doing your business and connecting with people on that professional business level, that is the social network for you, okay? Keywords are words or terms that you want to be found for online, right? Most of us know this when it comes to things on the web, when it comes to our websites themselves. But did you know that LinkedIn runs on keywords? Did you know you cannot be found in a search for words that are not somewhere in your profile? Same thing if you created a company page. And so you have to think about what are all the search terms that someone might look for. Maybe sales personnel, they're trying to find out unique ways to connect with their clients and start campaigns. What kind of words would they type in to find my solutions? And make sure that those words are contained somewhere in that profile. It's called a Google file type search, okay? So what you're going to do is you put in whatever it is you're looking for. So in this case, I'm looking for New Mexico, NAIOP. This is an association of real estate investors, okay? Member emails. Now, if you type this in, you're not going to find this anymore because someone told them I was doing this and they pulled it, okay? But at the end, you're going to put file type :XLS. That means you're saying, hey, Google, I only want Excel sheets that fit this description. You want to see what popped up when I clicked on the second thing? Who wants to see? Raise your hands. I need you to be real excited. I'm about to change your lives. Okay, when I clicked on it, I got this. It gave me their first names, last names, title, organization, address, city, state, zip, phone number, fax number, email address, member type, status, and scope. Are they a contractor, broker, financer? I like those cat calls. I see you. How many of you are excited? How many of you are scared? Who's excited and scared? All right. We are living in a time where the rate of change has accelerated unlike anything we have ever seen in the course of human history. I want to make you question everything you believe. Now, this session is going to be broken up into 3 quick sections. First, we're going to look at how customers are shifting. Because if we're going to serve people, we have to understand how they're changing. Then we're going to look at some trends. And please understand, I've traveled around the globe and helped all kinds of organizations use strategy for sales. I know that trends are slightly different in different regions. But today, because we have so many global minds, brilliant global minds in one place, we're focusing on the overarching trends. And then lastly, because I don't believe it's helpful to know trends without having tactics. We have to know what to do with this information.
Hey, babe, B people, where are my B people? You still feeling cocky? Go ahead, just raise your hand. I'm not even gonna make you stand up. Just raise your hand, it's okay. It's okay. If you selected B, you selected moon seed. Congratulations, you're dead. Yikes.
The purpose in doing this activity, though, was to show you how the smallest shift or change means the difference between something being safe and something being dangerous. We're only here because our ancestors understood that. And so our brains are still operating like our ancestors' brains, where when we see something new, oftentimes we find ourselves rejecting it immediately. Our brain thinks it's moon seed.
If positivity was enough, most people wouldn't fail at their New Year's resolutions. We're positive about those. We feel good about them. We want to do a good job. It's not enough because we're dealing with brain science behind them. So when we talk about neuroplasticity and learning challenges, the longer you've been doing something a certain way, the more your brain is going to resist trying to change and do it a different way. So we talk about leveraging generative AI, ChatGPT, Midjourney, DALL-E, Whisper, all these different types of technologies and models. For people that have been doing things a certain way for so long, there's going to be some resistance because their brains are actually saying, wait a minute, what are you doing? This is not how this works. And it doesn't matter that they're positive. We have to understand that that's one of the challenges that you're dealing with as you're communicating, and that's definitely something that your clients are dealing with their teams as well. A resistance to change. And a resistance to change doesn't simply mean that people are just being difficult on purpose. Understand we have a few different biases. We have recency bias, which is something that means that we tend to overestimate the importance of current events and how they're going to continue in the future. We have a status quo bias, which means that our brains prefer we stay locked into what's happening now, even if it's unpleasant, because we're familiar with it.
Now, generative AI is the conversation right now, and most of us in this room know that AI is not a new thing. The term artificial intelligence was actually coined in the 1950s. Okay, so we've been developing this for quite some time. Now people talk about it because of generative AI. And what's fascinating is that about 10 years ago, when people were really talking about AI a little bit more, the whole conversation was, these blue-collar workers that better level up before they lose their cashier jobs. How many of us remember this, right? Oh, these people in the front lines, they better, make sure they get some more skills. We got to upskill them because they're about to lose their jobs. Oh, well. It was kind of this flippant attitude, right? Because the educated, the innovative, they were going to be okay. Let me give you an example of something that's happening right now due to generative AI. There's an organization called Law Geeks, and they're out there, and they won't say this, but they're kind of trying to replace lawyers, okay? Sorry, ma'am, I think you're going to be okay, though. Don't worry, but I'm just letting you know, they're coming for you. And Law Geeks created this generative AI, and they wanted to see if their AI could outperform top attorneys. And so they ran a study where they had the AI, their Law Geeks AI, and a group of attorneys spot check 5 non-disclosure agreements. And when they took all the results and averaged them out, what they found was that the Law Geeks AI was 9% more accurate in spotting issues with the NDA. Okay, 9% more accurate, that's significant. But here's where things get even kookier. It's not just that they're more accurate. It took those attorneys on average 92 minutes to spot check those NDAs. It took the Law Geeks AI 26 seconds. How many of you have manipulated some form of generative AI? Raise your hand for me if you've tried something. So the question is, who owns the rights to what is created? Now, you might think you know the answer. Companies like OpenAI said, well, you do, but you just have to put this little phrasing here. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. So last week, I was speaking in Rio de Janeiro at one of the largest intellectual property conferences in the world on generative AI and intellectual property. And let me tell you, there's still a lot of conversation around who owns what. And if you think that we have laws in this country that have really finalized who can get a patent on what or whose copyrighted work that is, You're mistaken. In fact, all the countries right now are trying to figure out what to do with this content. So what that means is you can generate something today, think that you have a right to it, and then laws that come about 2 or 3 years from now might yank something from underneath you. So the other thing is we have to be careful as we're creating these prototypes, as we're creating this content, as we're creating these images that we're putting on our websites, because we don't know who's going to own this in a few years. We're playing the game as the rules are being written. This is a very simple chart where really it's crossing 2 periods of time over each other. We're looking at things that are both expected to unexpected, things that are not happening and things that are happening. And so when you think about in the planning, things that you expect to happen that actually end up happening, we deal with those things pretty well because we see them coming. It's just us planning for the future based on what we think will happen. The things that are expected and don't happen, we're okay with that quadrant too. You know, I live in the wonderful city of Houston, Texas. Do we have any other folks from Houston here? Yes. It's an exciting city where once every other year the ocean comes on land and tries to kill us. It's really exciting. Do we have any Florida coast people in here too? Yeah, you're with us on that one. And what's fascinating is whenever that happens, when the storm is coming and the weatherman has everyone get prepared, if it doesn't destroy your home as he suggested, people get mad. That's ignorant, right? That's that quadrant, but we'll be okay. Now, the things that we weren't expecting that don't happen, that's our freebie. But where we absolutely get our teeth kicked in is the things that are unexpected but happen to us. But what's interesting about this is that there are very few true black swan events. It's rare that no one expected a thing to happen. Oftentimes, we just didn't expect it to happen. And so now we have to expand the possibilities of what we're looking at that can happen to us in business so that we can cover that quadrant. Data-enabled AR contacts. We're already starting to see traces of this as well, where there's already contacts. There's a company right now called Mojo that already has contacts where you can get some information out of them. But now we're upgrading this technology. So I want you to imagine, just about in any industry, what happens when you look at a thing and you get all the information you need about this item? What does this mean for farming when you're looking at your crops, when you're reviewing your machinery and you see that something needs to be fixed? What does it mean when you don't have to have that specialized knowledge once again, because now immediately at the tip of your eyes, you can get all the information you need? Does this change education? When you can access information this easily and it's popping up in your head or at your eyes what you see? That's something we have to consider. But here's the other question. How is anyone a specialist when everyone can tap into all information? Cool thing about BombBomb and some of the other tools is you can actually track and see when they open things, no matter how late they open them. So can I tell y'all something spooky that I do? So I send it over, and you know, I see they're all clicking on. I get little updates on the side. I can see when people click on things. But sometimes I'll see that they click on this same email. Maybe we've done business together, but I notice, hey, they just reopened this email a year later. It pops up in my little emails. I just see they opened this from a year ago. So what do? I find an excuse to contact. I'm like, you know what? I just saw this article and it made me think of you, Tiffany. So when they're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I was just thinking about you. I'm like, me too. If you have a photo where the only people that can see you are the people you're already connected with, why are you on LinkedIn? That's almost like, imagine you wanted to connect with people, right? And you send someone a connection request. I want you to imagine you're at home right now. Go ahead and close your eyes. Close your eyes. Imagine you're at home sitting on your couch. Some of you have trust issues. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. I want you to imagine you're at home right now. You're sitting on your couch and you hear a knock at the door. You get up, you look through the peephole, and you see a man with a ski mask on who says, will you be my friend? Open your eyes. How many of you just made a new friend? Anybody let him in? Hopefully, this doesn't happen here in my home state of Texas, because depending on how close they are to the door sill, we can shoot them, right? deep in the heart of Texas. How is that any different than sending someone a connection request on Facebook, or on LinkedIn, and not having a visible profile picture? You get it? That's just as spooky. It's the same rules of engagement. Have that visible picture, but in that headline that appears under your name, get some of your keywords in there and put contact information. It could be an email address or a phone number. The reason why is if someone's searching for those keywords, you pop up near the top of their results, you're going to pop up on a page with 9 other people. For them to contact you, they have to click on your profile, try to send you an in-mail message or a connection request, if they even can. And how many of you in here are great about checking LinkedIn every day? Exactly. You'll miss it. So having contact information right there when all the results pop up, you're already saving them time. They already like you better. We've been waiting to be told what to do. We're waiting for someone to say what the newest trend is, or what you need to get here, or what's coming down the pipeline here, when we could actually create the future we want. We don't always have control over all of the situations around us. But what we can do is make the decision to position ourselves in the most positive light in any future that's coming in our direction. Friends, no one is coming to save us. No one.
How to make AI work for your business. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to evaluate if AI is a good solution for your business. First, we're going to talk about what AI is and is not. Second, we're going to look at the question that we should always ask before leveraging any new technology tool. And lastly, we're going to evaluate if you even have the team that you need to make AI a reality in your organization. Let's get started. First, let's talk about what AI is. AI stands for artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is not something new. It's actually a term that was coined in the 1950s, y'all. In other words, it's over 70 years old. All that artificial intelligence is computers that are giving outputs that look human-like. It looks intelligent, hence the name. Now, it's a buzzword right now because of generative AI. People are looking at things like ChatGPT and Midjourney, and these are programs that create outputs that look like a human did it, whether it's in text or whether it's a picture or video. There's many different things it can do, but it looks human-like. And so AI basically works off of being trained off of large amounts of data. And based on the amount of information it has, it can then give outputs that are helpful. So because it can absorb so much more data than a human, it's much more accurate than humans once it's been trained and tweaked. So for instance, if we want to look at the field of medicine, what we're noticing is that AI, especially generative AI, is much better at creating prototypes as well as potential drug combinations to help people with different diseases, because it can go through the combinations and think, even though it's not thinking, much faster than humans. It's also much more accurate in reading test results to help us understand if someone's at risk for a particular disease or issue. To give you an idea of the power of generative AI, there's a company called LawGeeks that basically seeks to kind of displace lawyers. That's not what they say, but that's kind of what they're doing. And so they created something called LawGeeks AI, and they wanted to see how accurate it was against leading attorneys. And so what they did was they created this test where their LawGeeks AI and attorneys would spot check 5 non-disclosure agreements. What they found was that on average, their AI was not just 9% more accurate than the attorneys. That by itself is interesting. At a 94% accuracy rate, it's 9% more accurate than the humans. But it took those human attorneys on average 92 minutes to spot check those 5 NDAs. It took that LawGeeks AI 26 seconds. 26 seconds to be 9% more accurate. Think about how much money could be saved there. That's the power of AI. But let's talk about what it's not. It's not completely accurate. If you know someone that's super, super smart, but when they don't know the answer to something, they just make up something that sounds smart, then you know somebody that acts like generative AI does. So I mentioned the legal example, but a few months ago, there was an attorney in New York who actually leveraged ChatGPT and had it write out a motion for him. Unfortunately, it mentioned a case that didn't exist. Because remember, AI, generative AI, is pattern recognition. And so based on what you ask it, it gives you an output that it thinks you want to hear, right? And so it's not always accurate. So in this case, this poor attorney risks being disbarred right now. I'm sharing both sides of this to show that generative AI and AI in general is very powerful, and it still has drawbacks, and it's not completely in a place where it can replace humans. So let's talk about that question you should be asking yourself before you think about implementing any technology, not just AI. And that question is, what problems have you already identified that need to be solved? So when you go into your organization, do you know that you have supply chain issues? Do you know that you're not efficient in the way that your system is set up? What challenges are there? Do you have a talent shortage? Now, after you ask that question and you find out what your leading problems are, then you implement technology that solves those problems. What I don't want you to do is see a new piece of technology that's incredible and then invest the money to buy it and implement it, and it doesn't actually have a use yet. We don't find technology and then find a problem for it to solve. We identify a problem already, and then if we see technology that solves those problems, that's the technology that we purchase and implement. So we think about using AI in our organizations. Right now, AI is extremely powerful, as I've already talked about. However, we have to be very careful because depending on which AI you're using, you could be putting sensitive data in there that could get you in trouble with different entities depending on your industry. You could actually be putting out trade secrets or other information you don't want to share. And so what we have to consider is security. Now, there's AI itself where you can go directly into places like Google Bard, or you can go directly into ChatGPT, the systems themselves. Or there's AI that's been created that will keep you within your organization. It's almost like with training wheels, and it helps customize it and keeps you within fences or gates to ensure that your security is not at risk. So when you think about using AI in your organization, make sure that you think about the security components and whether you need to use the tools directly or if you need to use a third party that kind of adjusts the tool so that it's better for your use and security. Quick question before we go on about AI. Have you already subscribed to this channel? If you have not, take a moment and subscribe right now. What are you waiting for? So now let's ask another question. Have you talked to your team yet about leveraging specific AI solutions within your organization? If you haven't, you want to talk to them so that you can brainstorm if they think it's a viable solution, and if so, what training wheels need to be put in place or boundaries to ensure that everything is secure and it's actually serving its purpose. One of the challenging things is that sometimes even the most visionary leaders, they're excited about change, they're excited about new technology or new ways of doing things, but they're not actually considering their team members. And sometimes these solutions that we think are valuable are not actually viable to the people that have to work with the tools or even bring in the change itself. And so I want you to go ahead and make sure that you're talking to your team members to see what they think and if it's something that's possible. And if they say it's not, it's just not a matter of them being negative. There might be some people that are closed and that they're dealing with some of their own mental biases, but sometimes what we're proposing really isn't a practical solution. So make sure that we're open to our team members. Our second to last step is if you're thinking about implementing AI in your organization so that it solves a particular problem, now's the time for you to look at the data you already have. It might be your client data, it might be order data. This is the time for you to look at what you have in your systems and clean that up. Are there old accounts? Is there information that was parsed that didn't come over correctly? You want to make sure that your data, your information is in the best possible condition and that you know how you can actually transfer it into another system if you need to. It's not the sexiest part of using AI. It's probably one of the most important parts of using it because AI works off of data. The last step is to identify the AI tool or tools you'll be using and start implementing. You may need to bring in an outside consultant or team, but you definitely want to have some of your team members on board as well as they're being trained and upskilled so that then they can go out to their own individual sections of the company and ensure that they're showing their excitement and how this tool will make everyone else's lives better within the organization. So if you're looking at ways to implement AI in your organization, it's because you're thinking about the future and the longevity of your organization.